Olympic watching is going well. USA men's basketball is currently in action, so keeping our eye on the side of that for the next 40 minutes or so as they do battle in the second half. Hopefully you guys are enjoying all the sports action across the sports world this week. We've got baseball, a full slate today, minus at least one. Yankees game has been postponed and moved to a doubleheader on Wednesday as there's supposed to be some rain in the area. The way we're going to do our show today is we're going to focus on your questions, what you guys need help with. I've already put out my picks for the day, so those are all already available on the SHARPZ app. They're already up on my Instagram story, so my picks are already out there. So we're going to focus on what you guys care about, your questions, your comments, what you guys want us to drill down on, whether it's sports betting research, whether it's fantasy football, whatever you guys care about. That's what we're going to be focused on today. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time we go live. It is so wonderful to have all of you with us every single day that we are on all of these platforms. YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, Instagram. We're on all of these platforms every day. Great to know you guys are joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you subscribe. As I mentioned just a moment ago, my picks are already up there. A few of the picks that I've already made, I'll just run through them now so you guys have them at the start of our show. I have the Padres on the money line. Dylan Cease on the mound for that one. Padres on the money line. I do like the Reds on the money line going up against the Marlins. I could see that being a cover situation for Miami, but I'm taking Cincinnati on the money line. Guardians plus 1.5. Guardians are a home dog. I like them just like yesterday to cover at a plus 1.5. I like the Orioles on the money line. Number of hitters in the Orioles lineup hit the starting pitcher of the Blue Jays incredibly well. We'll talk about a few of them in just a moment. I like that Orioles and Blue Jays game to also hit that over, to go over 7.5 runs in the Orioles and Blue Jays game. Speaking of the over, Red Sox, Royals, expect a lot of offense in that one. Both teams have hitters who have good history against the starting pitchers on the mound. Reason to believe that should be a high-scoring affair. And I like the Red Sox plus 1.5 as well to get the cover. Look out for the Rockies against the Mets. I could see the Mets getting the win, but Rockies plus 1.5 has a lot of value to it. Speaking of value, tonight may be the night the White Sox get the win. I'm not betting that game as of now, but keep your eye. I could see Oakland winning, I could see White Sox covering, or I could see the White Sox finally breaking the losing streak and finally getting the dub, but a lot of reason to keep your eye on that one. Additionally, Mariners on the money line. Luis Castillo, he's on the mound. He's probably one of the more heavy favorites now that the Yankees aren't in action with that rain in the Bronx. And finally, the Dodgers are not the kind of home favorites we would expect. In some places, they're a home favorite. In some places, they're a dog. If you can find them as a dog on the run line, take LA plus 1.5. Kershaw on the mound. And he's going up against a starting pitcher for the Phillies who has really struggled on the road as a run line play. So those are the game picks that I've already put out. They're on the SHARPZ app. They're on my Instagram story. They're already available. There's some crazy lightning that's coming through New York City, so you might hear some thunder in the background as we get to our research. Again, already put out picks. They're available up on the big board. They're available right now. But if you guys have questions, that's what we're here for. Who is your back-to-back picks if you're drafting at 10 and 11? Specifically Pacific, look at Jonathan Taylor, look at Saquon Barkley, look at Jahmyr Gibbs. I like to double up on the running backs. If you want to take one of those running backs and then go towards wide receiver, Garrett Wilson's obviously a great play. If somehow Amon-Ra St. Brown were to fall, I'd certainly consider him. Drafted London and Pittman as wide receiver 1 and 2. Really like that one, Jake. John B. Drummer. What do you think about Jordan Love as a protection in my PPR league? Absolutely love it, especially since the Packers offense is dynamic enough and they're going to rely on him in a multitude of ways. Really like him as a substitute play in the quarterback role. Braves over 9. We'll talk about that one in just a minute. Mandy, we'll do our research on that. 2 favorite money line plays for today. I hate putting it out this way, but Mariners on the money line is certainly one of them. I would have said Yankees on the money line prior to the postponement. I would probably say Orioles on the money. It's either Padres or Orioles on the money line. The money line teams I have are Padres, Reds, Orioles, and Mariners, so some combination of those. Let's dive into our research. We're being asked about the total in the Reds game. First of all, let's jump on over to Outlier And let's take a look at how the market is for this one. Milwaukee Brewers and Braves in this game. I did not bet this one. I looked into the stats on this, and this was a tricky game for me to bet. Brewers right now are getting a bit of love on the money line market. 31% of the money is on the Brewers to win, despite only 16 of the tickets being on the Brewers to win. I understand why, having gone through the research. Colin Rea on the mound for Milwaukee. Might be some reason I think there's value there. On the run line, Braves are getting a little bit more love, but not by much. As for the over-under, total set at 9. Market favors the over. Let's take a look at it. We're going to start by just looking at the Braves. At home is a favorite. Simple search right now. They have a winning record, losing record on the run line. When it's the first game of a series, as it is tonight, Braves are 12-6 as a home favorite. First game of a series. They actually done very well winning the first game, but not of late. Just 2 wins in their last 5 series at home as a favorite. Let's take a look specifically as when they faced a team with a winning record. First game of a series at home as a favorite. As LeBron James goes down, I believe he was just poked in the eye. Okay, great news here. Braves 6-1 straight up. Braves are 6-1 straight up when they play the first game of a series at home as a favorite against a team with a winning record. If you're looking for a money line play, maybe that trend has your attention. The total, I can't really see one side or another here. It looks as though the under is a slightly better play for the Braves. Let's dive into it a little bit more. When they're at home on 1 day of rest, how have they done? Over's been slightly better. Average run total's been right around 9-10 runs. Let's take a look at it from a Brewers point of view. Brewers, I'm just looking at how they've done on rest. Brewers on the road on 1 day of rest. By the way, Brewers are 6-1 on the road on 1 day of rest. So 2 teams who have performed very, very well on 1 day of rest. The under has been a very strong play. Despite the over being 4-3, the average total of games in which the Brewers have won, the average score in which the Brewers have played on the road on 1 day of rest is around 7.5, 8 runs. So the Brewers have scored, their opponents have not. They've really held opponents to low totals. Now let's look at the starting pitcher, Colin Rea. For the moment, I'm leaning slightly towards the under. Looking at the weather report on ballparkpal.com. Reason to believe the under might be a decent play. Again, let's look at the starter. Starter is Colin Rea. Colin Rea, by the way, 13-5 overall so far this year, but on the road, not as good, 5-3. There's really nothing when he's pitched on the road. Total has been around 7.5, 8. So what I would say is, Mandy, I'd lean towards the under 9.5. If I had to bet this game, I feel like the under 9.5 is the slightly better play. I don't have a great vibe for it. Bryce Elder on the other side. We can look into his stats just for one quick second. But I looked at this game earlier, and there's a reason I didn't want to bet this game in any direction. Really wasn't appealing to me. Bryce Elder, when he's pitched at home, small sample size. It's been right around 8.5. He's only made 4 starts at home so far this year. Personally, I like the under 9.5. I don't really like the over 7.5 nearly as much as I like the under 9.5. So that's where I'd come out. I'd go under 9.5 for the Brewers and the Braves. But personally, I'm going to avoid that one. Just not a bet that I'm willing to make given what the trends we've just looked at. Cleveland and Arizona. So I researched that game prior to the show. I really like the Guardians plus 1.5, Guardians plus 1.5, and a couple of hitters that I really like for that game. Ketel Marte. Keep your eye on Ketel Marte. Over half a hit or over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Jose Ramirez, over half a hit as well. Expect a good game from him. Josh Naylor has hit the starting pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez really well in the past, as has Tyler Freeman. So those are a couple hitters I'd keep my eye on. As you notice, there are a few more hitters in the Cleveland lineup that I like more than Arizona's. One of the reasons I really like the Guardians plus 1.5. Looking at the market for that Cleveland game right now, as we look at Guardians hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks, that's the first game to start. Market right now is pretty close to even across tickets and money, maybe favoring the Diamondbacks just slightly on the money line. Again, this is one in which Arizona at plus 1.5 is minus 115. I didn't like that play. I like the other side of this one. I like Cleveland plus 1.5 at minus 184. I put that into some of my parlays. This is hit in 7 of their last 10 games overall. Taking it one step farther, though. Guardians, when they're coming off a home loss in the previous game, Guardians so far this year, 11-6 straight up when they're coming off a home loss. When they're a home favorite coming off a home loss, by the way, they're 9-1. This is actually some good trends here. When the Guardians are coming off a home loss and they're a home favorite, 9-1 straight up. So I took them when they were an underdog earlier today at plus 1.5. But Guardians on the money line, everybody. Guardians on the money line may be a very good play. So Jeremy Buck, 9-1 straight up record, really strong for the Guardians under the scenario that they have today. Additionally, the over 8-1-1. The over is 8-1-1 when the Guardians are a home favorite after a home loss. I would certainly consider tonight Guardians on the money line and the over. I took them at plus 1.5 earlier, but modify that bet. Guardians on the money line looking like a strong play. Additionally, they're coming off an overplay. I'm kind of curious. When they're coming off an over at home so far this year, they're 19-10. Again, when that over has come in a home loss, the Guardians, this may be one of the best plays of the day, everybody. In fact, on the side here, I'm going to pull up my DraftKings because I want to place this bet. The over is undefeated. The over is 8-0 when the Guardians are following a home loss where the over hit. So an undefeated record in 8-game sample size. This is one you got to bet, everybody. This is the over in the Guardians and Diamondbacks game. I'm literally going to my sports book right now to enter this bet. It wasn't something that I saw earlier today. I do like the Guardians on the money line if they're going to be the favorite. So Guardians on the money line, I'm absolutely about that, but I would also take the over. So forgive me for a moment. I'm going to take Guardians on the money line. I'll put 2 units down on that, but I'm definitely going to take the over. Right now it's at minus 110. I'll take the over on that at 8. I can also move that a little bit. I'm going to move the total. I'm going to get it at 7.5. Put 2 units on that. I can even get it in an even better spot. I'm going to buy it at 6.5. You guys know I really like to move it. And I'm going to parlay it with a few other bets that I like really quickly. I'm going to parlay it with the Padres on the money line, with the Reds on the money line, with the Orioles on the money line. I'm also going to parlay it with the over in the Orioles. And I want, like I said, I want the over in the Orioles and Blue Jays. And I want the over in the Red Sox and the Royals. So again, these are the picks that I just actually put together in kind of a rapid move. I'm taking the over in Diamondbacks and Guardians, over in the Diamondbacks and Guardians. I played with the total just a little bit. You can get it at 8, you can get it at 7.5, you can get it at 6.5. All of them are good spots to me, so definitely something I would consider if I were in your position. Wonderful. So I'm going to add that to the big board as well because we really love that bet. Again, that's Diamondbacks, Guardians. I got it at over 8, over 7.5 is what I'm going to put up on the board. Appreciate the questions. I know I missed a couple of fantasy questions while we were doing that research. Sonny, thoughts on CMC injury and possibility of missing time this season? I'm not happy that it happened, obviously. Christian McCaffrey, I'd love for him to have a big year. But it validates comments that you guys have heard me saying earlier this week. I have been saying to you guys the moment we started talking fantasy football that I thought Christian McCaffrey would have a lesser season statistically than he had last year. I don't expect him to be healthy the entirety of the season. Last year, to me, was an anomaly. Christian McCaffrey is elite. He's one of the best players in the league. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he doesn't have a track record of staying healthy, and why should he? He's usually run into the ground by the team that has him, whether it is the Panthers or the 49ers. They tend to overuse him and use him to the point where he breaks down at some point in the year. I'm not surprised that the injury has happened. I'm not surprised that he's going to miss time in the preseason. Does it have me concerned about the regular season? This injury doesn't, but the idea that he's going to be able to stay healthy and that already being having a crack or having something go against it confirms my thinking. I'm not going to draft him unless I'm that number 1 overall pick and I feel kind of bullied into it. I'm not going to draft Christian McCaffrey. I think it's a season of regression for him. I think there are a lot more question marks around the 49ers than there were last year. So even though I think he's going to still be a good running back, he's not the elite running back he was last year. You can call it the Madden curse. You can just call it what it is, which is a lot of wear on those tires. So I don't make anything of it, Sonny, in terms of his ability to maybe play week 1, week 2. But overall, he's not the running back that I'd really like to draft to start my team. To find Klein, Orioles, check. Reds, check. Mariners, check. Over 2.5 team runs for each. I think it's a good call. The only one I think that's a good call. I think it's a really good one to find K-Line. Good call by you. Appreciate the questions and the comments. Hope you guys are doing well. It's wonderful to have you guys with us and enjoying the show. Daryl Turner over on YouTube. Mariners on the money line with Guardians on the money line. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm all about it. You also brought up that Diamondbacks game on the over. Check. Red Sox Royals on the over. Check. So I am all about that one as well. I'm not about the Rangers and the Astros on the over. I'm actually leaning towards the under on that one, Daryl Turner. That has to do with the starting pitcher of the Astros, Framber Valdez, and his history with the Rangers. Just has me a little bit skeptical. I could see it getting to 8. I could see it maybe getting to, again, if you want to take it at the over 8.5, I get it. I took it under 9.5, felt better about that. But there are a couple games I really like the over. Thank you, Mario. I like over 7.5. For the Diamondbacks and Guardians. I like the over for the Orioles and the Blue Jays. I like the over for the Red Sox and the Royals. And if you told me that the Dodgers and the Phillies went over, I wouldn't be surprised either, because there are a number of hitters who are really good in that lineup against the starting pitchers that'll be going. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, are all names that we've got our eye on, and by the way, our money on when it comes to player prop bets. I'm over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs for Shohei Ohtani. I'm over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs for Kyle Schwarber. Those are some of my favorite hitters of the day. We'll get to a couple more in a little bit. Jorge Karras, been doing some practice drafts, and at 10th pick, it looks like I might be getting Brown and Barkley with my first 2 picks. Good picks. Any advice? I think they're good picks. Personally, I'm kind of fading A.J. Brown a little bit. It's not that I don't think he's good. It's that I think the Eagles' offense is evolving. I think in the past, it was a lot of chuck it up to A.J. Brown. I think they recognize that they can't do that and consistently win. So I expect them to be more of a ground attack with Saquon Barkley. Doesn't mean A.J. Brown all of a sudden doesn't have fantasy value. It means I actually think he's going a bit too early in my drafts. To your point, I'm not drafting A.J. Brown. So you guys can kind of hear a theme in my analysis. There are certain players that I don't dislike them. I'm just not going to draft them. And especially if I'm in an auction draft, I love doing auction drafts. Those are players that I would nominate, but I actually wouldn't bid on. I would hope other people would spend their draft capital literally on those players. A.J. Brown's one of them. Cooper Kupp is one of them. Waddle is one of them. Those are the kinds of players that I almost want put out there that people are going to spend their money on because they have enough question marks around them where I go, I don't really want to play that game. I'd rather have things that I think, for all things considered, are more sure plays or higher confidence plays. Not that we can really feel that way about anything in fantasy football. What do you think about Tyreek Hill? I think, again, Tyreek Hill is due for a bit of a regression year. Good secondaries in his division. I also expect that the time in which he's in his prime and able to just dominate the way that he has How long can that last? Can he stay healthy? There are a number of variables that I actually think are starting to work against Tyreek Hill. So I understand why people are going to take him where they do. And so many of the picks we make are because we get bullied into it by average draft position or by narratives. It's one of the reasons why I kind of like sitting at picks 4, 5, and 6, because I'm outside the range of you have to take this player, and if you don't, you're just going to get ridiculed early on. Mike, I'm liking Orioles Blue Jays under 8.5. I feel the opposite. I like the over, and for a number of reasons in this one. Really quick, the way I'm going to focus on the over-under for this one, the trends back it, but I'm not going to go there actually to show you. It's the lineup. The lineup is phenomenal. Against Chris Bassett, Gunnar Henderson, 571 average, 2 home runs. Ryan O'Hearn, 556 average, 1 home run. Ramon Urias, 750 average, 1 home run. There are Eloy Jimenez in 11 at-bats, 455 average against him. The Orioles have raked against Chris Bassett historically. No reason for me to believe that any of these hitters are going to slow off tonight in a dome in Toronto. On the other side, Grayson Rodriguez, he's had some struggles with some Blue Jay hitters. George Springer, 14 at-bats, 429 average, including a home run. Vlad Guerrero, 14 at-bats, 357 average, 1 home run. These two lineups beat up on each other. I think this game hits the over. So, Mike, I'm curious to know why you're thinking the way that you are. The trends I looked at earlier today back the over, and really the stats between these lineups and the starting pitchers on the mound favor the over as well. In fact, let me quickly go to my picks. Someone's asking for a quick recap. Here are the picks that I researched earlier today prior to the show. So, same research we would have done on the show. I just did it prior to the show because I had some time. I took Padres on the money line. Padres on the money line. I took the Reds on the money line, but I did see some value in Marlins plus 1.5. I put that out there just so you're aware of it. It's not on the big board. I took Reds on the money line, but just making you aware. When I was doing my research and making picks earlier, the Guardians were the underdog. Guardians were plus 1.5. I love that pick. I took it earlier. Now that they're the favorite, I still like Cleveland on the money line, so certainly consider that. You could take them plus 1.5, put it into parlays like I did, or you could take them on the money line, but I do like Cleveland tonight. Additionally, Diamondbacks and Guardians, we just did the research on this. Over 7.5, over 8.5 is the good play. We brought this up a moment ago when the Guardians are following a home loss that went over its total in the previous game. The over is 8-0, and when we find a sample size that's 7, 8, 9 games or more, that's when we feel really good about one of those trends. An undefeated trend, the over in Diamondbacks and Guardians, over is the popular trend. By the way, in those games, the average run total has been about 11.5 runs. So you could even maybe play it a little risky and maybe take over 9.5, get some extra plus value on that if you were feeling the vibe on the trend at least that we just touched on. I like the Orioles on the money line. Orioles on the money line, as well as the over. Just mentioned it. Orioles, Blue Jays, over 7.5, over 8 runs. Big on that one. I like the Astros and Rangers under 9.5, but other than that, I'm kind of avoiding that game. Feels like a coin flip. I like Red Sox plus 1.5, Red Sox to cover. Red Sox and Royals over 9.5. I actually like the over 9.5 on this. I'd also obviously take it at over 8.5, but this game I think has some runs to it. Bringing that one up as well. There are a number of hitters in this matchup who I expect big stats from tonight, big production. Rafi Devers, obviously. Rafi Devers is en fuego right now, and in just 3 at-bats against Seth Lugo, 2 hits, including a home run, but he has a 10-game hitting streak right now, even better than that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12-game hitting streak. By the way, he has gone over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 15, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 straight games. 12 straight games he has gone over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. So Rafi Devers is someone I would absolutely take tonight, but he's not the only one. Keep your eye on Jarren Duran. Keep your eye on Masataka Yoshida. Keep your eye on the other side on Salvador Perez. Good numbers against Brian Bayo. Obviously Bobby Witt Jr., but Melendez, Massey. This is a matchup again that should see a lot of offense. Red Sox Royals, I like the over 8.5, over 9.5. That's where I'm at for that game. Finally, to wrap up the picks that I have up on the big board, I took the Rockies plus 1.5. There's reason to believe the Rockies will cover this game against the Mets. I could see the Mets winning, but I like Rockies plus 1.5. There's some value there. I like Mariners on the money line with Luis Castillo. Mariners on the money line. Finally, wrapping it up, Clayton Kershaw getting some underdog status. I can get Dodgers at plus 1.5. That's exactly what I'm taking. And as I mentioned, expect a lot of offense in that one. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went towards the over. I didn't put that one up on the big board, but Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, all hitters that I expect big things from tonight. So keep your eye on that game for offense as well. So we've got only one under up on the board, a bunch of overs, a couple of money line plays, and a couple of dogs that frankly don't deserve dog status. Guardians, Red Sox, and Dodgers, some of them already moving towards the favorite depending on where you're seeing it. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you're enjoying the show. Pedro, number one pick. Who should I go with? The problem is you're going to get bullied into Christian McCaffrey. Who would I want to go with right now? Personally, I feel like going with a wide receiver actually might be a safer play because the news of Christian McCaffrey's injury and just maybe some doubt about week one. Maybe you go with the CD Lamb. Maybe you just take a number one wide receiver just so you're not running the risk of making a mistake with that number one pick. Derek, is drafting Jefferson as high as 5 crazy? I feel like his current spot is too low. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's not what I will do. I'll put it that way. Do I think it's crazy? Absolutely not. The beauty of some of these players is they don't need a great team around them. They can single-handedly produce because they are that physically gifted, and when they get the ball targeted towards them or the ball in their hands, they make shit happen. But that said, I'm not going to draft Justin Jefferson just because there are too many question marks about that Vikings offense. I'm someone that when I put together, I do models for fantasy football because I'm a nerd, but when I do modeling or when I try to evaluate who I'm going to draft or who I'm going to bid on in an auction draft, I do actually put in variables like quality of quarterback, quality of offensive line, division that they play in, obviously the quality of opponents over the course of the season. And there's just a bunch of reasons why I'm not as high on Justin Jefferson as I would be some others. So personally, I'm willing to pass on him, but I understand if you want to draft him. And no, drafting him at 5 would not be deemed crazy. 10-man PPR 6th pick, what would you like for it? Honestly, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, I'd lock in one of the running backs at that spot. Yes, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, these are good picks as well. I've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown actually creeping up to that 6th spot in a number of drafts, so keep your eye on that. But I value running back. I've mentioned this over and over, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but there are so many wide receivers you can get. Who knows if DJ Moore takes off for the Bears, and I'm seeing DJ Moore fall in some drafts. Who knows if one of these rookie wide receivers all of a sudden becomes the Puka Nacua of this year. Very unlikely that we see a running back out of nowhere emerge as one of the top running backs. I don't think there's a Kyren Williams in this year's draft the way there was last year or, in this year's fantasy season. But a wide receiver coming out of nowhere and emerging as one of the, a great fantasy producer, that absolutely could happen. So with my first pick and usually with my second pick, I go running back. I make sure I get great production out of that position because I always feel like I can buy a lottery ticket at the wide receiver position and end up cashing on it. So that's where I come out on that question. Thoughts on Josh Allen at 211? Personally, I'm not drafting Josh Allen this year for a number of reasons. One, I think that offense is shifting more towards the running game. James Cook feels more valuable now than Josh Allen does in some ways. Additionally, I think Keon Coleman might be one of those lottery ticket wide receivers, but there are question marks for the passing game of that team. Love Dalton Kincaid, really like Keon Coleman, but the loss of Diggs and Gabe Davis might take some time for Josh Allen to get acclimated. And again, if I'm going to say it about the Dolphins going up against the AFC East, I'll say it about the Bills. You're going up against some good secondaries, certainly some good corners. You're going up against Jalen Ramsey, Christian Gonzalez, and Sauce Gardner. That's who's covering the number one wide receiver of the Bills at least 6 times this year. So personally, I'm not very big on Josh Allen. There are so many quarterbacks that I like in this draft, and I think there's good value at quarterbacks if you wait. So I wouldn't reach on a quarterback early, certainly not in the second round. Sorry, Chase, but no, Josh Allen's a no for me there. Squealers, great to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Jordan, thoughts on Achane? I think his production goes up. I think his value goes up. I think he's going to be the RB1 and Mostert's going to be the substitute teacher. So personally, I am big on Achane, but I also understand that this offensive line of the Dolphins has some question marks. So I wouldn't overvalue him. I'd make sure if I draft him, I also get some depth. Kyle Klein, Rockies plus 3.5 at -271. Kyle, I love it. Put that in a parlay with a few other things. I'm all about it. Daryl, I looked at the Padres game. Personally, I'm leaning maybe a little bit towards the under in that one. Didn't end up betting it, but if I had to go in any direction, I'd go under. John, who should I take with the 5th pick? Again, Bijan, Breece Hall. These are the 2 names that come to mind first. So then, with having 3rd pick in a 14-team league, would you grab Breece Hall over one of the wide receivers? Absolutely, especially in a 14-team league. You're going to be waiting so long for that snake to get back to you. You want to lock in that number 1 running back while you can, because if you don't get it then, you're certainly not going to get the running back you want in the second round. And again, you could get a wide receiver you want. You could get a Drake London to fall to you. You could get a DK Metcalf, a Michael Pittman Jr., a Marvin Harrison Jr., all of those names I just mentioned could be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy this year. It would not shock any of us. But if I told you some of the running back names in that list, as you make that turn for home, I feel like there are fewer and fewer winners in that group. Bros Before Hoes is feeling the White Sox win today. I would not be surprised if that's the case. Diego, do you like Marte going a yard today? He homered yesterday. Do I think he goes homer back-to-back days? Personally, probably not. I'm not going to say don't bet it. I like him to hit over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, but I don't know if he goes yard back-to-back games. Shane, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, or 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Oh, I would go 2 running backs. That's always how I like to approach things at this point. If I do a snake draft, unless the board doesn't offer it, you always got to treat it by what the board's telling you. So if there's a run on running back and you're in the second round and there are no good running backs on the board, go take that wide receiver who fell. That I always will promote. But that said, if I did have a strategy going into a snake draft, I'm trying to get the best 2 running backs possible in the first 2 rounds. Then I address wide receiver in the next 2 rounds. And then I'm looking at my board. Is there a running back who's still available who would be a good like a 3rd running back? Is there a wide receiver who maybe fell, who'd be a good flex? I probably won't reach it for quarterback or tight end unless there's been a real run on them and I feel like I'm going to lose out. But I usually like to get either 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers in the first 6 or some combination of 3 and 2 in the first 5 rounds. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs? I'm really big on him and only getting bigger. I do have a couple of question marks about how the Packers are going to use him. Is he going to be the kind of bell cow he was in Las Vegas? No, but still should be highly productive. I'm pretty big on him as a RB2. If he's your RB1 in a 14-man league, okay. But if you're in a 12 or 10-man league, I'd like him to be your second running back, not your first. If you're combining, he to me is like a perfect, you draft Breece Hall in the first round or Bijan in the first round or Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round and you pair them with Josh Jacobs in the second round. To me, that's a really good combination. That's the kind of duo that can win you a fantasy league because those 2 running backs will produce consistently good offenses. That's my expectation at least. Mike C., opinion on DK Metcalf's outlook. I always think DK Metcalf is underrated. I don't think we talk about him enough. Maybe it's because Seattle. Maybe it's because Geno Smith. Maybe it's because now they're so focused on defense there with the new head coach. But personally, I think DK Metcalf is physically one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. And when it comes to consistency, he's right there with all the rest of them. he stays healthy for the most part. When they throw him the football, he's absolutely someone I'd keep my eye on. So I like DK Metcalf. I draft him in the 4th round in a number of leagues if he falls to there. If you're looking at him in the 3rd round, I'd be okay with it, but really 4th round, if he fell to the 5th, steal. 4th is perfect. 5th and beyond is steal. By the way, Top Dog, shout out to you. Hope you're having a great day, Top Dog. Great to see you in the chat. Grant Carl trades Swift, Mingo, Shakir, and a 2026 late 3rd for Kincaid. I don't have a problem with it. I don't understand the league value in what you've got going. I love Kincaid, and clearly you're just looking for value right now. I'm not big on Shakir. He could be a good sleeper pick, but I'm not big on him. Mingo, same thing. I think DeAndre Swift could actually be a really good play, but personally, I understand the trade, and I'd be willing to make it. Let's check out some more of your questions. What value do you place on Jaden Daniels? It's been announced that he's the number 1 quarterback on the depth chart. I think he has some value as a 2nd quarterback on your roster, someone who you stash on the bench and play when the matchup is fits it. If he plays really quick actually, let me pull this up. 2024 Commander schedule. I never understand why they can't just Okay. So the Commander's schedule is the Tampa Bay Bucks in week 1. Interesting. I wouldn't want to start him week 1, but I'm just saying. He plays the Giants. He plays the Bengals. He plays Arizona. Arizona could be a good week. He's at Arizona. Fast track there. That could be a good week. Week 4, he could have value. He plays Carolina in week 7. Could have value there. He plays at New York week 9. Could have value there. He plays Tennessee in week 13. Let's see what the Titans are. So let's put it this way. There are at least 4 weeks on the Commander's schedule where I could see Jaden Daniels possessing some kind of value. Do I like him as a number 1 quarterback? Absolutely not. I don't think he nearly has the kind of value. Thanks, Cook. I don't think he has nearly the kind of value that a Caleb Williams does. He's not a Cam Newton kind of rookie quarterback that you can go, oh, he'll be a fantasy stud. But Jaden Daniels has some value depending on the week-to-week matchups. So I'm absolutely recommending him as maybe your 2nd quarterback to draft in round 13, 14, 15, just as somebody to have because it might be harder to pick up off the waiver wire. In truth, you'll probably be able to get him off the waiver wire in most leagues without too much of an issue. Appreciate you guys watching the show and supporting the channel. If you guys have questions about today's baseball games, put it in the comment section. We've already given out our picks on the SHARPZ app and on our Instagram story. We've gone through them a couple times, but if you do have questions about today's baseball games, fire away. We're also talking fantasy football, so obviously as we count down to the kickoff of the NFL season, make sure you get your questions in because the drafts are starting, everybody. Speaking of which, do you guys want to do a fantasy league with us tonight? Butt Fumble Sports is going to start another league on Rival Fantasy for tonight. Let's actually get that one up and loaded. So if you guys want to participate, thanks so much, Vince. If you guys want to participate in a fantasy football league with us tonight, we are going to do one right now. It's just going to be an 8-man league. It'll go by pretty fast. This is going to be BFS number 9, our 9th league that we've drafted so far this year, because you know we are draft crazy here at Butt Fumble Sports, getting everybody ready for the fantasy football season. If you want to participate in what will be an 8-man PPR snake draft, DM me on Instagram now. DM me on Instagram now. Frank, just DM me on Instagram. I'll share the link with you, and you can get in on this fantasy draft. Again, if you want to participate in this fantasy draft, DM me on Instagram right now. Appreciate you guys joining the show. Again, we're focusing on your questions. Our picks are already up there, so let us know what you guys want to focus on. If you want to be a part of this fantasy draft, just DM me now. Cook, I sent Chase and Garrett Wilson my first 2 picks. Chase and Wilson are fine. I'm not hating on it. Elite, what's good? Hope you're having a great day. By the way, Cook, thank you so much for that potato in Paris. Dylan, could Bijan be RB1 this year? Do I think he actually will be? No, I think he'll fall just short of it. But I love Bijan Robinson. He's got a lot of Matt Forte in him for me. He's got a lot of versatility in the running game, versatility in the passing/receiving game. The way they're going to use him, the offense around Kirk Cousins, I'm very, very high on Bijan. Probably overvaluing him a little bit too much, but very high on him. Elite Detail says, go Pack go. He's happy about Josh Jacobs being in his backfield. Sackwood, Quentin Johnston worth a dynasty sign? Hell no. Quentin Johnston right now is closer to bust status than he is being on your fantasy football team. I like Ladd McConkey, the rookie wide receiver on the Chargers, more than I like Quentin Johnston. Every report of Quentin Johnston is the dude can get open against almost anybody. He can't catch anything. So I am not about it. I wouldn't keep him as a dynasty play. I understand what the thought is, but actually it's Ladd McConkey who I like a whole lot more for what you're trying to get out of that pick. If you guys want to participate, Frank, there you go. Great job, Frank. I'm going to send you the link right now, Frank, so you can get in on this fantasy draft again. If you want to participate in a 8-man PPR league with me, DM me on Instagram right now. It's free to be a part of it. Just DM me on Instagram now. I took Ladd and Worthy with my last few picks. Cook, really smart. Those are the kind of lottery ticket wide receivers I'm referring to. Rookie wide receivers who are going to be not in great offenses Worthy is, but with Ladd McConkey, it's 2 good quarterbacks, big arm quarterbacks. So we're going to chuck them the ball, high target percentage in the overall offense. I'm big on it. Palmer's value is worth a look too. Tosh, interesting. I'm not a Palmer's fan. I'm not a big fan of him, but I understand you're right. Not a bad thing to look at. Brees or St. Brown at the 5th pick. I'd go Brees Hall, but again, it's because I value running back over wide receiver just a little bit. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, if you want to be a part of this fantasy football draft, DM me on Instagram. It's free. We have 1 spot filled, 7 spots to go. If you want to be a part of it, let me know, everybody. How do I feel about Luke Musgrave? If you are in a 14-man league, I like Luke Musgrave. If you're in a 12-man league, maybe as a backup, but frankly, I don't know what his value is right now. He could have some weeks where he goes off, but there are a lot of mouths to feed in that Packers offense, and it's not built around the tight ends. It's built around the running game, and it's built around the wide receivers. So while I like Luke Musgrave, I'm not going to reach to draft him. If he becomes my second tight end for some rotational weeks into the starting lineup, makes sense, but I'm not going to overvalue him given who else is available at that position. Jalen Polk. Okay, here's the thing about Jalen Polk. I'm hearing great things about him. I loved what he did at Washington in college. However, what's the quarterback situation in New England? It's Jacoby Brissett, and it will remain Jacoby Brissett for the foreseeable future. I really like what he can offer, but not with Jacoby Brissett as the guy throwing him the football. So when Drake May becomes the kind of quarterback I think he'll ultimately be, maybe I consider Jalen Polk, but we're probably a season away from that at least. Where do you think Ayuk goes? Sounds like Ayuk wants to go to the Steelers, and it sounds like the Steelers want Ayuk. I know that the Browns and the Patriots were the ones that the 49ers identified as teams that they'd be willing to trade him to, given the trade packages that have been put forward. But it sounds like Ayuk and the Steelers have their own kind of vibe going right now. So if I had to make any prediction, I bet the Steelers pony up what it takes to ultimately get Ayuk. I think Ayuk should go to the Patriots. I think he makes so much sense at the Patriots. Trading him for Amari Cooper, I think that makes some sense, but frankly, I actually don't love it for either team. I actually think if you were going to do that, just keep who you have for the time being. But going to the Patriots, making that deal, the 49ers getting the 2nd round pick plus Kendrick Bourne or something else, that makes a lot of sense to me. So just a lot of reasons why that would be the most obvious play, but I think it's going to be the Steelers. I think that's where he'll end up. If you want to be a part of this fantasy football league that we're drafting in just a few minutes, DM me on Instagram, ButtFumble Sports. If you're here for baseball picks, we put up our picks already. Feel free to ask and we'll go through them again. Thoughts on Chris Olave? Have no problem drafting him. Derek Carr may not be my favorite quarterback in fantasy or in reality, but he's good enough, and the Saints offense is good enough for me to feel good about Chris Olave, who's a real star. I actually think he's going to suffer from the fact that the Saints aren't respected, but Chris Olave, he is a legitimate wide receiver one in both fantasy and in the NFL. Best New England wide receiver value, I think you're right, but again, if you're the number one wide receiver on a team with a bottom 10 passing offense, are you really that good a pick? I mean that. If you are the number one option on a bottom 10 offense, are you actually worth it? I almost rather have the number 2 option on a top 10 offense than I would the number 1 option on a bottom 10 offense. Not, it depends on the player and the circumstance, but just something to consider. Which running back should I target? Not too expensive. Well, in terms of sleeper, I keep bringing up Chase Brown. I think there's a lot of value in the running backs of the Bengals. Chase Brown, more so for me than Zach Moss. Zamir White, everyone's talking about him with the Raiders. Ramondre Stevenson actually has some value, even though the Patriots' offensive line has a lot of question marks. James Cook, great value, but he's probably going to go sooner than he should just because people are really excited about him. Looking across the board, if you want to take a flyer on kind of someone who's been around a couple teams now, Devin Singletary with the New York Giants, DeAndre Swift with the Chicago Bears. These are some names I'd just be keeping on my radar, not as an RB1, probably not even as an RB2, but as that RB3 that can fill in on the right weeks or maybe be a flex play if they have a good matchup. Nate Dogg, big fan of James Conner in the 6th or so. You know what? Every time I overlook James Conner, he just delivers. The dude is a contact animal. He is addicted to contact. He runs through people. He finds the red zone. There's now a better passing offense around him and Kyler Murray with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, one of my favorite tight ends in the draft. So I agree with you, Nate Dogg. I think James Conner has some value. I'll always worry about his ability to stay healthy, just given the wear and tear he puts on his body, the physical demand by how he plays. But yes, I am big on James Conner as well. Sean, some of my favorite plays for today, Diamondbacks and Guardians over 7.5. Diamondbacks and Guardians over 7.5. I also like the Guardians on the money line. If you can get them on the plus 1.5, I absolutely would take that as well. So Guardians, Diamondbacks on the over, as well as I would take the Guardians plus 1.5 on the money line. I like the Red Sox and the Royals to go over their total as well. Red Sox and Royals to go over the total. Additionally, I like the Mariners on the money line, and I like the Dodgers to cover. Mariners on the money line and the Dodgers to cover. Those are some of my favorite bets of the day. User, I draft tomorrow and I got pick 9. Was thinking about using my first 2 picks for running back. That's smart. If you haven't joined the show earlier, that is the exact strategy I'd go with. Locking your 2 running backs. Keep your eye on Jonathan Taylor. I'm really big on him, especially when you're drafting at that 9 spot or making that turn in a league. I'm very big on Jonathan Taylor. David, keep Sam Laporta for a 6th round or Stroud for a 10th. Sam Laporta in the 6th. Stroud can be replaced. CJ Stroud had a great year. Quarterbacks, truly a lot of great quarterbacks in this fantasy football draft. A lot of ways you can find value week to week. Sam Laporta is a top 3, maybe even a top 2, maybe even the number 1 tight end in fantasy this year. It's between him, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, and maybe Mark Andrews. But I'd keep Sam Laporta, David. It locks in one of the best players at a position. CJ Stroud will not be one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy. Even if he has an MVP season, I don't think he'll get enough rushing points for you. And given how quarterbacks are these days, rushing production is so important. Grant Carl over on YouTube, trade Adams for Amari Cooper and Jalen Naylor in Dynasty. Jalen Naylor? I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who Jalen Naylor is. Diego, I like the Rockies plus 1.5. Rockies to cover actually is where I'm coming out on it. If you guys want to get in on this fantasy football league, DM me on Instagram right now. 3 spots filled, 5 spots to go. We'll only do one league because there doesn't seem to be too much enthusiasm about it. But DM me on Instagram if you want to join this fantasy league. Who you got for a home run tonight? Keep your eye on Kyle Schwarber. He has raked against left-handed pitching this year. His lefty-lefty splits are phenomenal. He's going up against Clayton Kershaw. Keep your eye on Kyle Schwarber. On the other side, keep your eye on Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers. So Teoscar Hernandez, Kyle Schwarber, 2 guys I like. Royce Lewis is an interesting one for me. Royce Lewis. Rafi Devers is another one. And then in that Blue Jays and Orioles game, Gunnar Henderson, Vlad Guerrero Jr., those are a couple of names. So I know I threw a lot at you, but there are a few names I like. Appreciate you guys joining the show. Make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time we're live. If you do want to participate in this 8-man PPR league, DM me on Instagram. Austin just DM'd me, and he is getting the link right now so we can go grab a spot and join the league. If you want to participate, DM me on Instagram. If you're watching over on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, I actually just put out the link as well. You can hit the link and join the draft. This is a season-long league, by the way, so feel free to use this in any way you want, but this is a season-long league, so we will be playing each other all year long. Sean, pick 9 in a 10-man snake. First 4 picks. Taylor, Cook, St. Brown, and Devontae. What you think? Love Taylor, like Cook, love St. Brown. I like it. Sean, I think you did a really good job. If those are your first 4 picks, I think you did a really good job. Very high on it. Frank, Garrett Mitchell, some good source suggested Corey Seager too, I believe. Okay. Do I have to pay for the draft? Nope. No league fees. No league fees for the draft. This is a free 8-man PPR league. Totally free. Totally free. Fave 3 team winner. We've been talking about some of my favorite plays so far today. I like the over for Guardians and Diamondbacks. I like the Orioles and Blue Jays to go over their total. I like Red Sox and Royals to go over the total. I also like all 3 of those teams to have. I like the Guardians to win. I like the Orioles to win. I like the Red Sox to cover the +1.5. Pacheco or James Cook? Ooh, great question. Great question. I'm going to say Pacheco, but man, that feels close. If you told me at the end of the year it ended up being Cook, sorry, Finn. I'm going to go Pacheco for now, but that is a great question, Finn. Finn, that might be the question of the day. Pacheco or Cook, that is tight. Craig, keeper league, pick 3. JT, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Laporta. JT, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Laporta. I have no problem with that. I wouldn't hold on to ETN. I'm okay holding on to 2 members of the Lions offense. I understand why you're cautious on it, but it doesn't bother me. If you want to trade Laporta, fine, but I'm telling you who the best 3 players are in that group. Juan, you want to get in on the league? There you go, buddy. Go claim your spot. Right now, we have 4 spots filled, 4 slots to go. So if you want to join this 8-man PPR league and compete against me all season long, DM me on Instagram right now. It's absolutely free. Just trying to find ways to engage with you guys off the air and compete with you guys in fantasy football. What do you think about the O's, Mets, Giants? I like the O's. I don't like the Mets. And as for the Giants, question mark there. I'm not quite sure. Cook hasn't been great lately. Lugo over tonight. Royals win tonight. I like the over. I do like the over. But I do have Red Sox +1.5. Red Sox +1.5. But I love the over in that game. 4 slots filled, 4 slots to go in this fantasy football league if you want to participate. What's your Super Bowl prediction, teams and winner? What's my Super Bowl prediction, teams and winner? What's my Super Bowl prediction, teams and winner? I'll say in the NFC, I'm going to say the Packers represent the NFC. I'll say Packers represent the NFC. I don't want to say it, but I think it's Chiefs Packers and the Chiefs win. I hate saying it. I don't want to be boring. I don't want to be chalky. Like, in my mind, I'm literally trying to come up with something that's different than the Chiefs because I'm trying to be creative. I'm trying to come up with like a take, or I'm trying to give you guys something that's different than kind of what everyone else is going to say. But the truth is, I think the Chiefs are better this year than they were last year offensively. Defensively, they'll miss Snead. They'll miss their secondary isn't as strong. But offensively, they got faster. They got better. They can catch more passes. So I'll say Chiefs. I'll say Chiefs Packers in the Super Bowl, and I'll have the Chiefs winning. Sorry, I know it's a lame prediction. Appreciate you guys being with us. Eagles, I thought about the Eagles. They were definitely a team that I considered, but I actually like what the Packers have built this offseason. I think the move not enough people are talking about is Xavier McKinney. They addressed another part of that secondary, that defense. Xavier McKinney in that secondary, really strong. I really like the additions the Packers made. I like that they locked up Jordan Love, so there's no questions there. Just a lot about that team that I'm very high on. By the way, we are one slot away from filling up this entire league. 7 teams loaded in, 1 team still waiting for it. If you want to get in on this 8-man PPR league, DM me right now. Butt Fumble Sports, DM me on Instagram. The moment we fill up the league, we will draft. So DM me on Instagram if you want to be a part of this 8. There it is. We have our 8th person. We have our 8th team. Let's set up this draft, everybody. We are going to draft right away. So the draft order has been randomized. We are going to do a snake draft. It's going to be a 30 seconds. The draft will start at 5:30. It's right now, everybody. So we are starting this draft right away, okay? The draft room opens in 30 seconds. Draft gets started in 30 seconds. So if you are a part of this draft, get ready. We are going to start right away. We are starting in 15 seconds, everybody. 15 seconds. 15 seconds to the draft. Juan, I'm 7th, so I'm right there with you, buddy. We are starting this draft in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are on the clock with Chubbs. Unfortunately, Chubbs Magoo is not here, so this might be an auto pick for him. There he is. Great. Everyone's in the draft. This should go pretty quick, an 8-man league. So again, for those out there that are in 8-man leagues of your own, do a 12-man league. Philip, we didn't have enough demand for me to do a 12-man league. I usually don't like to do a 12-man unless I know we've got enough people who are pumped to be a part of it. 14-man league, I got Love, Lamb, MHJ, Pitts, Aaron Jones, Pollard, Watson, Pacty, and Elliott. Thoughts? You're kind of weak at your running backs. That's my only concern. Love your wide receivers. Love Pitts. But your running game is kind of weak, and that has me a little bit concerned. Giving running backs usually define who wins a league rather than wide receivers or quarterbacks. Cook, I only do a 10-man half PPR. Okay. Brandon, A.J. Brown for Kupp and Saquon. 100% Brandon. I'd rather have Kupp and Saquon than A.J. Brown. No brainer for me. Interesting start to this draft. Christian McCaffrey ended up going 4th. Josh Allen went 3rd overall. I don't understand that. Maybe that's just someone who's trying to blow things up. Best baseball bet for tonight. We did our research earlier today, the Real Coach KB, and we found that the Guardians are 8-0 towards the over when they are coming off a home loss that went over. So yesterday was a home loss that went over its total. That is the scenario, and the over has hit consistently 8-0 the following game for the Guardians. So I would take the over. Diamondbacks and Guardians over 8, over 7.5. I was pick number 7, and I took Bijan Robinson. I was happy Bijan fell to me at number 7. That's only because Josh Allen got drafted early. I don't understand that pick. Jahmyr Gibbs goes next. I'm in a great spot. If you're drafting 7th in an 8-man league, doubling up on running backs or doubling up on 2 really talented players is super easy. I got Bijan with my first pick. Bijan with my first pick. Do you have any leagues to join? Brandon, join us tomorrow. We'll do another league, but for now we won't. Justin Jefferson fell. First pick of the second round. Amon-Ra St. Brown's available for me, but I'm going to go with my strategy. I'm going to stay running back. I'm going Jonathan Taylor. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown just fell. Matthew takes him. I totally get it, but I'd rather lock in the running backs. I understand what I passed on, but I'd rather get the running backs while I can. Bit of a run on wide receiver here in the second round, though. Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and A.J. Brown. And now the running backs coming back. Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams. 8-man leagues are fun because every team is loaded, so you really get good competition every week. And it really does come down to the waiver wire stuff. How do you feel about Astros and Cardinals on the run line? Cardinals, I feel like they're going to win, but I didn't want to bet it. I didn't have anything good about it. And Astros, I didn't bet that one either. 2 games I don't have great feel for. Feel like they could go either way. Cardinals should win. Astros should win. They've got the better starting pitchers, but not a great feel for it. Derrick Henry is the first pick of the third round. Kind of interesting there. Tells you a lot about the running back position when he's the first pick of the third round. Luke, any concerns drafting Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs because of targets? Absolutely. Feel the same way about Tank Dell. I really like the Texans as a team to watch this year. They're kind of a Madden team for me, but they're not necessarily a team that I actually want a lot of players on because there's so many mouths to feed that, yeah, I don't know if the production's going to match last year. Just because this offense looks so good on paper doesn't mean it's going to be great for you from a fantasy standpoint. Perfect example. I'd rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. than Stephon Diggs. Now, that's an obvious statement, but that's the kind of example of just because they're both wide receiver 1 on the depth chart does not mean that they have equal production or equal value. Sam Laporta just went. Sam Laporta, the first tight end taken off the board midway through the third round. Kind of surprised by that. Travis Etienne goes next. You guys are going to hate what I'm about to do. Unless Matthew beats me to it. Let's see what Matthew does. Matthew, 2 wide receivers with his first 2 picks. Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown. See what he does. Takes Chris Olave. Wow, he went 3 wide receivers. I'm going the other direction. I'm going to take 3 running backs. My first pick, Bijan Robinson. My second pick, Jonathan Taylor. Third pick, I'm going to go Josh Jacobs. No bye week issues with those 3. I now have 3 running backs who are all RB1 on their depth chart. Those 3 could be 3 of the top, let's say, 7 running backs in fantasy this year, and they're all on my squad. I love the team I'm building. Because it's an 8-man league, there's still wide receivers that I can draft that I feel really good about. I'm in the 7th spot in an 8-man league, so I've got to wait for that double pick by the person behind me. They just drafted Debo. Wonderful. I didn't want Debo Samuel, so love that. I'm going to go wide receiver with my next pick. I don't have a wide receiver yet. I have 3 running backs, so it makes a lot of sense for me. But if in any draft, if I get Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs all on the same squad, it's going to be awful hard to beat me in that league. Puka Nacua comes off the board next. I'm going to take Drake London. So I know I'm kind of overloaded a little bit on the Atlanta Falcons offense. I'm not thrilled about that. But Drake London, I thought, was the best wide receiver on the board. Puka Nacua was taken just before. Would have been a toss-up for me between those 2. But Puka Nacua be a bit of an injury risk right now. I'll take Drake London. Again, I know I'm overloaded on the Falcons offense. I really don't have a problem with it, though, especially because I'm doubling up on the running game and passing game. So either way, I'm cashing in. Love what I'm seeing from my team so far. We're in the 4th round of a 15-man PPR snake draft. That's what we're doing right now. Drake over Cooper Kupp. It is for me, Jay. Yep. Henry, rate the 12-man team. Lamar, Breece Hall, Henry, Higgins, Keenan Allen, Ferguson, and Achane. Love the running back. Love the wide receivers. Love what you've done at wide receiver. I think Ferguson's actually maybe one of the better picks of your entire team, given the value he could have. Wide receiver, I have questions. I try to trade Keenan Allen. I'm not sure what you're going to get there. Just a lot of mouths to feed, and I'm not as excited about him. He could be a good player, but personally, I'd rather trade him and try to get a better value at the wide receiver position. Second QB league, Allen, second overall thought. Nah, wouldn't do it. Mike C., would you pick Deontay Johnson over Metcalf? Hell no. I have no faith in the Carolina Panthers passing game. Yeah, you have no faith. I have no faith. Thoughts on Aaron Jones this year? Great question. The answer is he's not someone I'm going to draft unless it's going to be in a bench role. Someone who comes in and fills in for those bye week issues. Maybe someone who's got a bit more value based on matchups when I need them. But Aaron Jones isn't someone that I'm targeting. Certainly not in an RB2 spot. Maybe as a third running back, just as some depth. That's probably where I'd go with it. We're in the 5th round. Jalen Hurts just went a couple of picks ago. Lamar Jackson's on the board. I'm going to take Lamar Jackson. Now my team is Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, and Josh Jacobs. Freaking love my team. Now I've got a wide receiver play I need to make. I'm going to go DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore, even though he's a wide receiver too on the depth chart, I think he's going to have a big year. It's my second wide receiver because I'm so loaded at running back with Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs. Now I can take a plethora of wide receivers. I'll probably take 2 or 3 more wide receivers. So I can build a lot of depth there. So it's okay if I take some flyers on a DJ Moore or players like that. Tyreek Hill at 2 is a very popular pick. I'll certainly say that. Naylor is going to be wide receiver 3 for the Vikings. Gotcha. Didn't realize it. Jalen Naylor, didn't even know who he was. Didn't even know who he was. I thought you were talking about Malik Neighbors, and I was about to be like, damn. How did Malik Neighbors get so disrespected? By the way, Amari Cooper is an interesting player to draft right now, given the swirling winds, the trade rumors around him. If he goes to the San Francisco 49ers, Amari Cooper has enormous value in that offense. So drafting him now with the Browns or having him with the 49ers, either way, good player to have on your roster. We're in the 7th round. I got to tell you guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think I have the best team in this league. For all those who are drafting against me, I think by giving me 3 stud running backs, you kind of nailed yourself. I'm picking 7th in this round. There have been 2 picks to go so far. C.J. Stroud, quarterback. Tight end Kyle Pitts. Wide receiver Devontae Adams. So I've got a couple players I'm eyeing. Malik Neighbors on the board. Zay Flowers on the board. Joe Burrow on the board. Anthony Richardson just came off the board. Zay Flowers just came off the board. Where does Matthew go? Matthew, you're gonna define my draft right now, buddy. I'm gonna make a very big pick based on what you do. I will either take a wide receiver or a tight end. It's gonna be defined by what Matthew does. What does Matthew do? Matthew takes T. Higgins. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. I'm going to take a flyer on Malik Neighbors. I'm hearing great things out of New York Giants camp. And again, wide receiver's a position that I'm just going to have a bunch of lottery tickets. If any of them cash out, wonderful. So far my team is Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, DJ Moore, Josh Jacobs, and Malik Neighbors. Yes, it is an unbelievable team so far. I can confirm this. Joe Burrow just got drafted. Double pick. Oh, it's an auto pick. Sorry about that. I'm not going to go Trey McBride, who is my favorite tight end in the draft. This may be my favorite team I've drafted so far this season. This is my 9th draft, my 9th team, and this is my favorite one so far. Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, DJ Moore, Trey McBride, Josh Jacobs, and Malik Neighbors. That is as dominant a team as I've been able to draft so far. Diego, I guess FIU football is going to be called the Pitbull Stadium. I heard that. Dale. Craig, Colts have a chance to win their division? Absolutely. Keep your eye on the Colts. I think the Texans ultimately will, in part because I think they have a better defense than people recognize. But the Indianapolis Colts are a very talented offense, really high on them, not just from a fantasy standpoint, but from an actual standing standpoint. I'm very high on the Indianapolis Colts. Cook, rate my 10-man team. Mahomes, Chase, Garrett Wilson, Flowers, Connor, Walker, Laporta. Also grab Chubb. I think it's a really solid team. You're obviously weak at running back, but you know that. I think it's a really good team. I'd give it a B+. I think it's a playoff team. It doesn't win a championship. You might need some waiver wire help at the running back position over the course of the season. Luke, I was thinking of drafting Tyreek Hill first in a 12-man PPR, or should I draft someone else? If you're drafting a wide receiver first overall, the popular pick has been CeeDee Lamb, not Tyreek Hill, ironically. Would you trade CMC for Debo and Jacobs? I don't know. The answer is I probably would say yes, just because I have my own questions about CMC, and that's good value in exchange, but I'm not loving it. Henry, thoughts on this trade? Lamar and Henry for Caleb Williams, Najee, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I like it, actually. Henry, you could talk me into it. In part because I don't want to be overloaded on the Ravens offense, so I'd want to get out of that trade anyways. Frank, you really wanted Tank Dell? Well, there you go. In the 9th round, you got him, buddy. What do you think about Chase Brown? Very high on him, Tuck. He's one of my sleeper running backs. Very high on him. I think he's a great pick. Jets, good or bad this year? Very good. I could see the Jets being an AFC championship caliber team. When someone asked me earlier who I had in the Super Bowl, I did say that I had, forgive me, I got to make a pick real quick. I did say that I had the Packers playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs winning, but if you told me it wasn't the Chiefs, I think it could be the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, they have the weapons on offense. They have a top 5 defense. I love what the Jets are on paper. If Rodgers stays healthy, I absolutely believe that Rodgers and the Jets could be in the Super Bowl this year. Hasn't happened in our lifetime, hasn't happened in a long time, but the Jets could be Super Bowl bound. I really do believe that. Man, I'm dominating this draft, guys. I'm dominating this draft. This isn't even close. My team is too good. My team is too good. You drafting Love over Richardson? Nope. I'm drafting Richardson over Love, and it has to do with Richardson's running ability and what he can gain for me from a points perspective from the running game. So no, I like Richardson more than Love. Where do you think Ayuk goes? If he goes anywhere, I think he's going to go to Pittsburgh. I think all of this talk about the Patriots and the Browns, that's what the 49ers wanted. But the moment they said Ayuk could pick, Ayuk doesn't want to go to those teams. He wants to go to Pittsburgh, and I think the Steelers know that. They may have to up their offer just a little bit, but my feeling is he ends up in the Steel City, even though, frankly, the best situation from a financial standpoint for him would be New England. D-backs and Guardians, take the over, Don. Don Dota, I'd go with the over. Do you hate pumpkin? I don't like pumpkin. I've never liked pumpkin. I don't like pumpkin spice. I don't like pumpkin. I don't need fall assaulting my senses. So no, I don't like pumpkin. Rashid Rice, thoughts? I just drafted him in the previous round. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I'm a very big believer in go identify who the top 5 offenses in the league are going to be. Draft those players. Draft the top position players or the top production players on those teams. Rashid Rice's legal issues doesn't sound like those are going to affect him this season. Sounds like that's going to be a 2025 issue. So I'm very high on Rashid Rice. By the way, there's so much speed on the field now that not only will he not get double coverage, there are going to be safeties out of position trying to cover Xavier Worthy, Marquise Hollywood Brown. Meanwhile, Rashid Rice could be a very productive player, Jay. Would I draft Deebo Samuel? I would not, but there's just something about the 49ers offense that has me fading them a little bit. The reason why, back-to-back seasons. Jake, thanks so much for subscribing, buddy. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Jake. The reason I'm not drafting Debo is I'm just kind of a little bit wary of getting... The 49ers have gone to back-to-back Super Bowls. Physically, they must be so run down. They must be so run down. It is not often teams go to back-to-back Super Bowls or make long postseason runs and they stay healthy. So with the 49ers, I'm just worried about them continuing to make these deep runs. I'm just a little bit concerned about it. I've got to make a pick. I'm dominating my draft so much that I'm like running out of great picks to make. The arrogance. The arrogance. Jake, we're doing a draft right now, buddy. This is going to be the only draft of the night, though. Top 3 defenses this year. I'll say the Jets. I'll say the Browns. Jets, Browns. I don't know who that third defense is. I could see the Eagles having a major bounce back year defensively, but Jets, Browns. I think the Steelers are going to be surprisingly good. That addition of Patrick Queen is a great one. Those are some that come to mind. That's a good question, though. As the Browns and Jets come off the board, we're entering the 13th round of this 15-round draft. If you guys want my picks every day, Butt Fumble Sports, we give away our picks for free. DM me on Instagram if you want our free fantasy football picks. DM me on Instagram, Butt Fumble Sports. We give away our baseball bets, our football bets. All of our picks are made for free, are given away for free every day. We never charge for them. They're never behind a paywall. So if you guys want those free picks, DM me on Instagram. Nothing to it. Ravens defense will be great. But losing Patrick Queen, though, that's a big loss. That's a big loss. Micah on a revenge tour. I think Cowboys, what about that secondary? I've got questions in the back. So, Devontae Adams thoughts. Devontae Adams is in quarterback purgatory. Gardner Minshew is both an upgrade and yet not nearly as good a quarterback as Devontae Adams deserves. Sean, I like the Steelers. I think the Steelers is a good one. Bears Hard Knocks is tonight. Yes, it is, Diego. Unfortunately, my frickin' TV isn't... actually, no, I can watch it in here. I think that's at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is when that Hard Knocks is. So very excited about that. Gotta pick a defense. I picked the Steelers. Diego, Texans versus Lions Super Bowl. That would be like the feel-good story. That would be the feel-good story Super Bowl. I hate to tell you, I get the vibe the Lions are going to regress a little bit defensively. Like, I think they're going to be a good team offensively. Defensively, I'm a little bit concerned. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show today. Hour and a half long show. If you guys want every bet that I make every day, DM me on Instagram, Butt Fumble Sports on Instagram. That's Butt Fumble Sports, B-U-T-T, Fumble Sports on Instagram. DM me. Cup or Adams. I'd probably go Devontae Adams, believe it or not. 49ers maybe top 3. Jay, not a bad point. We will be live. Will we be live tomorrow? I think I might miss tomorrow. I've got to do some traveling. I'm going back to Boston. If any of you guys are in Boston, hit me up. Let me know. Would love to hang out with some of you guys. But I am going to be in Boston tomorrow, and because of that, we'll probably miss tomorrow's show. But I will be back live on Thursday. So Thursday will be our next show. Make sure you DM me on Instagram if you want our picks. Make sure you join us. It's going to be a live show at 4:30 on Thursday. 4:30 show on Thursday. Jake, yeah, I'm going to be in Boston for the next few days, so let me know what's up. Maybe we can get together. I'm going to be live at 4:30 on Thursday. That's going to be our next show, everybody. Really appreciate all of you guys being with us, all of you guys joining us every single day. I hope you guys know this is my favorite part of my day, is coming on live and talking sports with you. If you guys want any of my free picks that I made based on the trends, data, analytics, the research that we did today, DM me on Instagram. That's Butt Fumble Sports on Instagram to get every bet that I make every single day for free, because they should never be behind a paywall. With that said, I'm out of here, everybody. I'm going to go get some dinner. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the night of sports ahead. DM me on Instagram, Spencer, if you want those picks. And make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time we are live. I will see you at 4:30 on Thursday. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everybody.